Wow.
Oh, let's get ourselves back in here. There we go.
That was epic, Richard. Good job.
Thank you. Welcome to Vintage SF Live. I'm joined today with Bart of Bart's Book Space and Whitney of Secret Sauce of Storycraft. You've probably seen us before a few times, and we're here because Whitney, in one of our discussions of books, Whitney brought up, have you seen Project Hail Mary? And Bart and I both said yes, and she needed to talk about it, and we needed to talk about it live, not just typing or whatever. So, Whitney, you want to tell us a little bit more about why you asked to talk about it?
Oh man, there's so many reasons. So I guess one of the things is we usually do our discussions. So first of all, I have to say I miss you guys. So that has to be number one, right? But we recently did a book buddy read that we decided not to talk about, Cryptonomicon by Neil Stevenson. Pretty heavy book, but I think we were kind of all pretty disappointed in it. And as it turned out, at least I didn't have a whole lot of positive things to say about it.
I enjoyed it.
So rather than arguing about that, I thought it would be way more fun to talk about something we've never talked about before, which is the movie Project Hail Mary, which is an adaptation of the book. And I know it's a popular topic online right now, but I think we have a really good community of people because both Bart and I believe, have read the book, and then we went to see the movie, right, Bart?
That's right.
And then Richard had not yet read the book. So I thought it was a great multiple perspectives to really talk about what worked, what didn't, what makes for a good adaptation. I finished the watching the movie with my sister, and I just immediately called you guys. I'm we have to talk about this. So I'm really excited to hear your thoughts because I think there's a lot of good things, and I also think that there's some things that really could have been a lot better. So
interesting.
That's my hot take, I guess.
All right, starting off with a hot take.
I saw the movie Wednesday last week, almost a week ago now. My wife and I went to a matinee. You know, I have to say, there was something interesting about this matinee. In Canada, we have something called strollers and babies matinees, where they have the lights slightly up and the sound slightly down on the movie. I didn't realize we were going into one like that. And so I didn't mind the sound being down a little bit, but this is a space movie. I really wish it had been just pitch black in the theater for it. And so I feel like I need to see it again to just really take in those space sequences.
Did either one of you guys see it in IMAX, the full IMAX?
Not I.
No.
Yeah, mine was only a big 4D one. So
okay, yeah, I saw it on a regular screen, and I do want to see it in IMAX. I think it does make a difference for this movie.
Yeah. By the way, we have at least a few people watching right now, and there will be people watching later on when they can get home from work, perhaps. If you have seen the movie and perhaps saw it in IMAX, you can comment if that was good, or if you just want to say hi, feel free to enter into the comments. And as we go through this movie, I mean, I think you knew when you came in here, spoilers all over the place here. We're assuming that you've either seen the movie, read the book, or both. And we just wanted to talk about it.
Right. That's a good caveat. I suppose if you haven't seen it, then what I can say is I do recommend go see it. But otherwise, we definitely want to talk spoilers. So
yeah, and I would just add, and I shot a video on that if you haven't watched the movie yet and you haven't read the book, read a book quickly. It's not a short book necessarily, but it is a quick read. You could probably read it in 5 days and enjoy the movie. I think that's the way to go.
But I haven't read the book, and I enjoyed the movie.
Of course, no, you certainly can. But I think if you're gonna do both, I think that's the proper order: original text, and then and it is. We'll get into it, but I think the adaptation is quite faithful. So I suppose
disagree, but okay.
Well, there's some changes, of course, but overall, I think in tone, in its character, in its wholesomeness, in the funny moments, in the pacing, I think there a lot of it is, to me anyway. But it's been a while. Maybe you read the book more recently, because I read it. I just like when it came out. So I don't know. It's been like 6 years.
This is a book that I would definitely like to reread because I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
And I do not reread books. So I think that's a big caveat for this book. I also would like to rewatch the movie because I've obviously only seen it once. So I'm coming from the perspective of having read it a couple years ago and then also having only seen the movie one time.
Yeah.
Well, if you reread it, let me know and I'll read it for the first time and see how that goes.
That could be very fun.
Yeah.
It is a very fast read, in my opinion, but I do have to give a caveat there too. I made my aunt and my cousins read the book, and I have to say, a lot of them are not sci-fi readers, and they had a really hard time with this book. They said it was too sciencey. Which really shocked me because I thought the science was very accessible and really added to the story. I thought it did a really good balance between like the humor and the plot line with real science that was explained in an accessible way. But these were the first people in my life that had really said that they were like kind of done with a lot of the scientific explanations. So I thought that was an interesting perspective to consider.
Yeah.
From someone who hasn't read the book, there did seem to be a lot of science in the movie. They had an interesting blend of humor science problems that they kind of replayed over and over again. But for me, it worked, and I enjoyed that.
Well,
but,
I would say to Whitney's point, both of my daughters and my wife, and none of them are science fiction readers. All of them read it. And while they did talk about some of the science being a little bit dense, because it is a book that's both hard science and kind of feel good as well. So it's an interesting balance that he's able to strike. A lot of the hard SF books will be very dry, not character driven. In this case, we have hard SF, but also with all about, characters and this pairing, this sound family. So it's an interesting combination. So I think because of that balance, they actually love the science and are considering reading more science fiction. So I always look at, why someone would, everyone watches movies, but not everybody reads books. And I think Project Hail Mary is a perfect book for people to kind of fall in love or fall back into love with science fiction. So I think there was one comment earlier about why maybe reading the book before seeing the movie is worthwhile. My answer would be because I want more people to read, and I think it's a book that you can really enjoy reading, and a lot of people do. In my family, everyone loved it, and then we all went to see the movie, and we loved the movie.
And I've watched a lot of movies that are adaptations where I liked the movie and said, okay, I want to read the book now because there's got to be more to this than the movie could show. So it can work both ways, I think.
Yeah. I have to say I kind of disagree, Bart, because I think there's so much more to be had in the book than the movie. So I think to quote with this gentleman's, I assume it's a gentleman, I'm so sorry, this person's thoughts of they regretted reading The Martian before seeing the movie because it kind of sets you up for a little bit of like disappointment because there's some really special moments in the book that I think really add to the story that were not included.
I think it's definitely a personal thing and a personal choice. So there's no, I think, right or wrong, and we can disagree about it. My whole point, I think, about reading a book before I see a movie is one of the reasons I enjoy it, especially a science fiction movie, especially a movie that introduces a special character like Rocky, right? In this case, I think reading the book and imagining what that character is like, what is happening, is really special. Once you've seen the not stupid. I mean, I love the movie. I love what they did with the character. But now when you read it, you're just seeing the character as someone else imagined it, So you're just seeing that puppet that was in the movie, which was kind of cool that they didn't use CG. They actually used a puppet with puppeteers controlling it. So it was well done. But if you read a book, that's what you're going to be seeing instead of using your own imagination to come and imagine this world and this adventure between them two. You're just gonna see Ryan Gosling and you're gonna see Rocky as somebody else created him. So,
User Unfriendly also had asked Whitney, "How did you make your family read the book?"
So I use the word made them on purpose because essentially what I did was I was very excited about watching this movie, and there haven't been a lot of movies that I'm really excited to go see in the theaters specifically. So I decided to send, my family does these Discord get-togethers because we're all over the country. And we're usually talking about a book or a movie. And so I texted everybody and said, hey, we're going to talk about Project Hail Mary on this date, which is going to be mid-April. So if you don't want to be a loser, you better go read the book and you better go watch the movie. So a lot of my friends and family were using peer pressure. That's
awesome. I love it.
But
this person here says, occasionally gentlemen, often rogue, when you're asking, I guess.
Yeah.
We had another comment. Watch Blade Runner, then read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. Completely different, but I love both. Yeah. And I love that. And you know what? I'm guessing may not have read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, except because the movie brought you to the source material.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're seeing that with the Dune movies, how many new readers came to, I mean, just when you look at the bookshelves, how many editions of Dune are on the bookshelves these days. So certainly a movie can bring a lot of new readers to the story. It could work in both ways.
So it's interesting that you bring that up because I'm sorry to reference one of my older videos, but I'm going to do it. Sure. And if people are interested, I can send you the link and we can link it in the description box. But
let's do that. Sure.
I did a discussion on my channel that wasn't very popular about what makes an adaptation successful or good. Because I think there's a lot of different definitions. It can't just be an exact duplicate, in my opinion, of the original source material. There is some aspect of different forms of media, and books can do like internal dialogue really well. But on a movie, that has to translate at least a little bit differently because you can't show the internal motivations of a character as well as you can in a book, but you do have other elements to your success in a movie. So it's not just about how accurately it like directly copies and pastes from the book to the movie. I came up with 4 different criteria for what makes something good. And one of them is that it has to be able to stand on its own. So that means that if you haven't read the book, you still have to be able to enjoy the movie. Otherwise, it's not a good adaptation because it's not going to bring readers to the story. So a good example of that did fail, I think, is Ender's Game, the movie. It was terrible. And I had a bunch of family members and friends say, I don't understand why they're doing this, or what happened here, or why are we doing this? Because they didn't do enough explanation, I think, without having read the book. So that's awesome. So I think that it's got to be able to stand alone. I also think that a good successful adaptation brings people to the original source material as well. Like you're like, I loved that so much. I want to experience it again in book form. And I think that adds to the like a successful adaptation. So I also think that it has to yeah, internal dialogue is the thing. It happens in my head all the time. But I think it also has to capture the spirit of the story. And I do think that this did that, but I think that there were a couple of big changes that they made that I didn't like, that really affected the story and the enjoyment of Project Hail Mary. Because one of the things I wanted to ask you guys is, have you both seen The Martian and have you both read The Martian?
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought it was also very faithful. Very faithful adaptation.
What's really intriguing about this is the gentleman who wrote the Martian screenplay also wrote Project Hail Mary screenplay. Oh. So we're comparing 2 different people, but it's 2 different people doing 2 different works that are kind of parallel. So I think that comparing this to The Martian is particularly intriguing for the movie. So we should talk about the bits that we thought were really excellent and also the bits that could have been improved. So,
should I talk about it perhaps from a person who hasn't read the book first, and then you guys can go?
yeah.
Sure. Ryan Gosling. Love him in terms of this type of role. You know, a lovable loser, forced into this, and I'm curious to see if the novel forces him into this situation the way they did. Basically, hijacked him into space. Loved how the movie was flashbacks for the stuff, so we were brought first right into the capsule with him waking up, trying to figure out what was going on, and unfortunately, with previews, I knew that there was going to be an alien coming into play here. One of the things that I enjoyed, but I also had a question mark in my mind, is that Rocky and what's Ryan's Gosling's character name?
Ryland Grace.
Rylan. Okay, so Rylan and Rocky have an amazing relationship that grows in terms of communication, and of course, we have the funny backward statements that Rocky kind of makes here. I enjoyed it and it worked, but it reminded me about how George Lucas took a swing with Jar Jar Binks with a character who didn't quite get language right and tried to be funny. And I was thinking, I hope as we see this movie over and over again, that won't become something annoying to us, that we'll still find it endearing.
We're going to come back to that.
Okay. Then the science of what was going on, the dots, you know what? I could just accept it, that was what was going on. They found a sun that wasn't happening, that there was some sort of life on this planet that was consuming or taking care of these dots. I think I would have liked a bit more explanation of how they were able to dip into the planet to get the stuff from there in the movie. I found it a little bit light, just as a science fiction fan. It's just kind of like, oh, we'll just drop a bucket into there and scoop them up. And I love that the relationship with Rocky and Rylan was so close that when Rylan realized that Rocky's ship was doomed, that he made the choice to Rocky over all of humanity for himself. That was quite an amazing sacrifice to make. I was a little surprised. There just didn't seem to be any real emotional connection with a human being for Rylan on Earth. They kind of built up a little bit the lady mission commander relationship with him, but that didn't seem to be anything romantic or even brotherly sister. It just kind of was more pals at work kind of a relationship. And she had betrayed him, of course, when she got him into the mission. So I was missing a human connection for Rylan to Earth that I think would have been fun to have too, to even see more or bring out more of that sacrifice. And it was kind of cool seeing him go back to teaching once he was on Rocky's planet. So those were my immediate impressions of the movie. Overall, a lot of fun at the movies, and that's what I go to movies for. I actually am not looking for some sort of really deep story. Occasionally, there's occasional movies, Schindler's List or something like that, but I usually go to the movies for fun.
So before we move on from there, I'm sorry, Bart, you're not being skipped. I wanted to ask before we taint you with our thoughts and ideas, because you haven't read Project Hail Mary. How would you compare it in general to the Martian movie?
The Martian was a story of survival, and this is another story of survival. It really, in its own way, but there was a relationship and a character to really play off of.
Have you read The Martian? Or
I had read The Martian. Yeah. And so I know that there was some communication with Earth eventually once they had hooked that up, but he was really, he's just trying to get his potatoes to grow. And so I thought that a foil was very a good addition to a survival type of story. It's just, it's like Tom Hanks had Wilson, the the volleyball, even though that wasn't at least we had a real alien character here that helped to expand that story. And that chemistry, that probably is the thing I would think most people come out of the movie with, is that they would love that chemistry between Rylan and Rocky.
Mm-hmm. So would you say better or worse?
As a movie going experience?
Mm-hmm.
I would say better. Project Hail Harry. Project Hail Mary. Did I say Male Harry?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dyslexic, I'm not.
Yeah. I also, yeah. So now, Bart, I'm gonna also say same question, like review the movie just a little bit, and then also please compare it to The Martian.
So I'll quickly say that I really enjoyed Project Hail Mary, the book. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic. I think some of the points that you made, Richard, reading the book will fill in maybe some of those gaps, because the book is just able to expand a little bit more. You're spending more time with the science, the ideas, and they're fantastic. And as much as possible, accurate to the science that we know. The astrophage, obviously, that's kind of a made-up thing that's eating neutrinos and so soaking up the sun's energy. That doesn't exist. But pretty much everything else, from what I've heard from scientists, because I've watched a couple of videos, is very accurate, as it was in The Martian. So that's a cool connection between the two books, and I think we have to give props to Andy Weir for doing it. And as far as the movie, I really enjoyed it because it was hopeful, it was optimistic. It was the kind of story that I really enjoyed watching. I liked the connection. Very unfortunate, Richard, to connect Rocky with Jar Jar Binks. Very unfortunate, I would say. I think he was done much better and more endearing, certainly less annoying for sure. And I loved some of the scenes that they had together. They seemed to have chemistry, and to create Rocky in a movie. In a book, I think it's almost easier. You're just an alien, and I'm imagining it. But here we had to connect to an alien who has no face. And as humans, our psychology is so connected with faces. We're so like in tune with faces from the time we're born. I remember my little daughter Natalia, when she was little, if anybody else looked at her other than her parents, immediate family, she would cry right away. Even if somebody like walked by. So in tune with faces. But they did a great job. I fell in love with Rocky in this movie, and their chemistry and the bond they had. So I thought the movie did that very, very well. I liked also the cinematography. I forget the name of the cinematographer, but it's the same guy who's done the Dune, I think, both movies. So really good, like the space scenes when he's kind of like surfing through, this whatever that thing was called, not the astrophage, but the line.
The Trove line.
The Trove line, exactly. There's some beautiful shots. I think it would have been even better on a big screen. That's why I want to go back. So I just enjoyed the movie a lot, because I pretty much through the whole thing I had a smile on my face, and I laughed out loud a couple of times. And I was with a lot of people who usually would read or even watch a whole lot of science fiction, and they all we came out of the movie, and everybody was excited talking about it. So it was a positive experience. People were clapping at the movie theater. I haven't heard that in a long time. So I think it's a movie that does quite a few things well. I enjoyed the pacing, the kind of back and forth. It throws you in the beginning. He wakes up. It's just like the book, that part of it. I just thought it was very well done. As far as comparing it to Martian, I think Martian felt a little bit more serious in some ways, even though there's quite a bit of joking also. And it was also, I thought, very well done. And that tale of survival on a planet that is trying to kill you, I thought it was really well done as well. And I know the science was accurate. And, in a couple of days, hopefully, we will be taking off to go fly around the moon after so many years, going back to the moon. So that's amazing. Like, how many years it's been? 60 years. We're going back to the moon. So who knows? Maybe Mars is next. So that was kind of science fiction, but near future. Project Hail Mary obviously takes a bigger swing with aliens, not just Rocky, but also astrophage. And so I don't know. I love that they're different types of movies. I like them both. And I think the author really does well when he mixes this SF with some humor. That's his kind of sweet spot. And he kind of fails with Artemis, which is behind me, and I don't think we're gonna get an adaptation of that book. So we'll see. But yeah, I really liked it. Hopeful, optimistic. If we put our minds together, we can do anything. Anything is possible. And also one last thing, Richard, I think the fact that he did not have like a family just made it easier to throw him into that situation, maybe. So I don't know. But it is interesting. I didn't think about that.
Well,
can I comment on one thing that Bart was talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The Rocky, when I was watching the film itself, I didn't know anything about the special effects or anything that happened before the film was put out there. I could tell that it wasn't just a CGI character there, that I was sure there had to be puppetry that was involved, because you can still have that human touch in the movement of an object that portrays emotions, I feel, better than CGI. There's something about just the movement a person can make, and even the mistakes in their movement, that can portray emotions, portray situations, portray that concern that he had for Ryland when Ryland was knocked out, all those sort of things. That made it a great performance. And to me, it was either puppetry or some sort of motion capture is what I felt like they were doing there, that had a human behind it. And so go humans. You're good.
Yeah.
Well, I'd add to that single point for just a moment and say it wasn't just Rocky that I think made it so like real. The addition of putting Gosling on like the strings and the rings that he had to do to like mimic no gravity, I thought was really well done, because if you remember, he also like gets very frustrated because he's not an astronaut and he has to deal with no gravity. So he puts those like ropes everywhere to try to get around, and then he keeps kind of running into things and stuff like that. I thought that like added a little bit to the character. It didn't take up too much screen time. It was smart of him to do, and yet he's still kind of like crashing into things and moving around. And a lot of that stuff wasn't scripted, because he was just like let go on the wires and they were like, figure it out. And I thought that was good, that he like hadn't practiced, and that it didn't feel overly done, in my opinion. So there were a lot of aspects of this movie that I really liked that weren't CGI. And I thought that was great.
And I understand that some of the dialogue even was ad-libbed. And we might talk about that a little bit later.
Yes.
I saw an interview with Ryan Gosling about this. And so, I mean, you can tell me what happened in the book and what didn't happen in the book. But to have Ryan Gosling and the puppeteer voice, I guess would be, I'm not sure if they were the same person, probably not, but interacting with each other live, that's a very interesting improv situation too.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling talk about the fact that the way they shot the movie, they shot it. I mean, first of all, the inside of his spaceship, all of that was built, so it's all actual built things. They talked about how they used different prior shuttles and spaceships to get the layout and near future kind of scenario. But they built the whole thing, so they actually moved around in it. But also he was acting basically by himself, kind of that internal monologue where he was just talking out loud, of course, to us. But he was by himself acting for over, I think, 100 days before the Rocky started, the scenes with him. So he was so excited to be acting with Rocky, because now he had someone to kind of play off of. And he said it was amazing. And they did have a connection with the person. There was actually like 5 puppeteers. There was the main one, but also 5 others. Like when the Rocky would roll around, they would run with him, all like in costume. So then they could cut them out of the scene. Interesting the way they decided to do it, but I think it was done very, very well. And I do think, Richard, it's true, the human movement, you can even through shaking of the puppet, you can make it feel more nervous than I think any CGI can show, So that's a great point.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of really cool stuff that comes out about the making of this movie that I would be particularly intrigued to watch, like the making of. But Bart, you have yet to say, is Project Hail Mary or Martian better movie?
Oh, I don't know.
You have to pick one. You can't say I don't know.
Oh, it's been it's been a few years since I watched The Martian, but I think right now I think I would vote for Project Hail Mary, but it's close, and I think with enough time, I think maybe there were a couple of things that I don't know. Project Hail Mary just worked for me because I was also with some younger kids, and it was perfect. Whereas The Martian, I think it's a little bit more serious, and maybe I think overall, if I'm really pressed in a year or two, I would maybe say that it's better. But I'd love to watch them both kind of side by side and then make a decision. But yeah, like my emotion right now, I'm excited about the movie. That's kind of how I feel. But I think Martian might actually be a better movie overall.
I think
What
if you
about
look
you,
at
Whitney? What do
that,
you think?
I was just before we get to it, I was just going to say, I think that overall audience, like you talked about having teenagers there or kids there,
Yeah.
I think that The Martian would bore them at times, but I think that this one would hold
Yeah.
them all the way through.
Yeah, I had my daughters, and I also had our friends were there, and their daughter's like 12, and she really liked it too. So yeah, there was like a gamut of ages watching it, and everyone enjoyed it. And I think that's true. At Martian, maybe it would not be so. Yeah. So what
how
about you,
Whitney?
Oh man. Okay, so I have to start by saying I liked the movie. Okay, I don't regret going. I thought it was great, but as usual, I have some like tiny hot takes that I have to talk about. So I really want to talk for just a quick second about a couple of things that I saw in the comments, just to answer some questions real quick.
Sure. Yeah. Should I pull up some of these?
Sure. If you'd like, if you go up, there was somebody who asked about how is the audiobook by Ray Porter?
Okay.
And I really want to mention it's phenomenal.
Yeah,
I believe that it is better than the movie by leaps and bounds.
Wow.
And I also think that while I know no adaptation is perfect, if I had been hired, or like, I mean, maybe I would have done it for free, but to do this adaptation, I would have to tell you, I would have made Ray Porter, the audio actor, be Rocky, because I don't think anyone does better than Ray Porter in the audiobook. Like, hands down, you will not convince me of anything different. I appreciate the guy who did it, and I think that they had a nice little story about it. He didn't do as good as Ray Porter. He just didn't. So I'm gonna leave that there for you guys.
That's interesting.
I also think that I agree with kind of the statements that you're highlighting here. Yeah. I think that like you have to have people who really understand and love the source material. I think that's where things went wrong with The Witcher. I think that's where things went wrong with Wheel of Time. I think when they try to create something new out of it, rather than something that has worked before, and we know it's worked before, I think that's really a problem. So
there's a question about speed of light. How fast was he traveling? I'm not sure what the novel would say on that.
Not the speed of light, because it took, I think the star, Tau Ceti, is about 12 light years away, and 12 years passed on Earth each way. And for the ship time, because of time dilation, was only 4 years. So it was supposed to be pretty close to the speed of light, because they were using this neutrino spin drive and neutrinos to power it. But I could be wrong about that.
And how about go ahead, Whitney.
Oh, I was just going to answer this. I was going to say, I haven't read the book in over a year, so I'm going to say I don't know. But I do know in the movie they did mention that it was 0.1 the speed of light. So I don't think it was exactly the speed of light, because I think that his coma actually took decades to get there. But I would honestly say that I would have to rewatch it for that tiny detail. I don't remember. In terms of, is it explained how the other two died?
But in a coma, you still age.
Yes.
They were not frozen. He was in a coma for 4 years. That's for sure. 4 years. That's why he had the beard. He was not. There was no cryo. He was not using. Weir was not using any science that we could not use right now, basically. So that's why
Mhm.
they add the spin drive and the energy from this astrophage that they were collecting. But having said that, it definitely wasn't decades for him because if he was decades in coma, he would be an old man.
Right. No, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I found that very interesting that they use coma, because I can't remember another novel using a coma as the way of knocking a person out going to another star.
Well, because we don't have that technology yet of freezing someone and unfreezing
Exactly.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they had some really good points in the book that really explained a lot about how this worked. And to the point down here, actually, both of those points go together. They do talk about why Ryland was the one who survived, and the fact that they died, because essentially they're using that little robot that they're showing is actually a robot that we use in the ICU.
Oh.
So it's
Wow.
yes, it's actually a real thing. You can really get one. Hospitals have them all the time for these ICU patients. So these and they basically like reprogrammed them, and there was a lot of glitches that happened. Now, it doesn't tell you exactly why they died, but it does tell you that essentially because Ryland didn't agree to come, right? He basically had to be knocked out with drugs that do exist. Those drugs combined with the drugs for the coma, he essentially got a double dose. And they also talked about how some genetic variables in his DNA versus the other two that went, he was better able to tolerate the coma drugs, which also does exist in real life, by the way. Like, for example, redheads handle anesthetic a lot differently than the rest of the population. So that is all based off of science, but they did invent this drug that kept them under a little bit longer. It was experimental. And so it was because he got this double dose that he seemed to survive. And then the other two, for some reason, didn't. And they don't know if it was just the drugs that made them wake up, whether the drugs killed them, or whether it was the faulty ICU machines that were very poorly programmed. So they do kind of go into that a lot more in the book.
Our friend Dale, who loves to read with us and some of our buddy reads, has a question here. Do you think there'll be a follow-up to the movie or book? They leave it open on whether he'll go back to Earth.
Nope. I think the ending was flawed. I think they copped out, and they should have just done the book ending. I think that's a thing, because Andy Weir had some very strong reasons for why he ended it that way. And I know some readers thought it was a touch controversial, but I loved the ending of the book, and I wish they would have just stuck with it.
Well, you know what? This is a spoiler zone now. So how did the ending of the book differ from the movie?
So literally by a single sentence. So, at the very end, when they're sitting on the beach and Rocky says, "We're ready for Hail Mary to go back. Our scientists are ready." In the book, the distance between Iridian and Earth is even further than the Tau Ceti system was. That's why he didn't have enough fuel to get back. So at the end of the day, they did the calculations, and even if he wanted to go back, it was going to take something like more than 40 years, I believe. Ooh. That's not an exact number, but essentially he was going to be over like a geriatric person, and he was going to be alone that entire time. So he decided from the get-go that he wasn't going to go home. Yeah. And he spent his life saying, well, I do want one thing. And then it shows you the classroom that he like missed the teaching. And so they made him a very special classroom with the Iridian children. And that was the epic scene of the story, with the caveat that they said, well, we've been monitoring Earth now for several years or months or whatever. And the sun, Sol, did brighten up again. So you don't get an answer as to whether Earth did okay or anything like that, but you do get an answer that says somebody was able to take what research he sent them back, and they were able to at least save their son. Now, how did that look and how many humans were left and what infrastructure was left, we don't know. And that's, I think, an ending that bothered a lot of the book readers. But I thought it was perfect because the answer is you don't always get a return trip, especially when we're talking about these distances. And especially because, as you mentioned, Richard, and you noticed, he didn't. Yeah, I was talking about the coma gene earlier, by the way. But he didn't have any connection to Earth. He was kind of like very like a little bit abrasive, and he was kind of like, just his whole life was wrapped up now in teaching, and that was his new like found purpose in life. So the fact that he gets to keep his purpose, it's just on a different planet, was a beautiful symmetry in my opinion. So I really liked the book's ending, and I thought it really wouldn't have taken that much for them to have had the book ending as opposed to the cop-out ending, which was, he was like, well, I don't know. And then, like, I think that they were trying a little too hard there. I think they got scared that it would upset audiences. And I think they were scared on several points of this movie that they shouldn't have been. They should have just left it as is.
So I like that ending that you said for the book. And I think that they actually, how about the shots that we had of the humans at the end, the lady project manager in the aircraft carrier? That seemed to be the positive ending that they're trying to give us for Earth.
Yeah.
Well, I think they wanted to make it obvious that it got to Earth, but it was left ambiguous in the book. Like they didn't get confirmation other than Sol brightened again. So I really think that that's too bad, because I liked the ambiguous part.
Yeah.
And I will just jump in and say that I did see one interview, and I was surprised, where Andy Weir says that he leaves the door open for a sequel. So I don't know if they didn't do that on purpose in the movie. If, I don't know, in case he wants to go, or people from Earth, I don't know. I think it would be silly, and I think they should leave it alone, in my opinion. No need for a sequel on this one at all. But I think then he may have some pressure if the book was successful before. Now with the movie, it's going to be that much more successful, and obviously, how many more ideas like this he has in him? Maybe he writes a sequel, but I'll read it, but I'll be skeptical.
Yeah.
Too many sequels have ruined the original by cheapening it.
I agree.
I would agree. I don't think this one requires a sequel.
Well, he did say he's writing a fourth book, and it's supposed to be about AI, and that's all he said. So I'm kind of excited about that. But I do want to address this comment that you brought up, and it actually has to do with one of the biggest complaints / changes that I think were made to the movie that I think was a negative change. So if I could only change one piece of this story, it's interrelated. So give me a second to kind of explain myself, but it has to do with this comment here. And that is, in the book, the woman, I think her name is Strata or something like that.
Eve Strat.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go with Eva because that's easier to say. Yeah. So Eva is a character that they're trying to display a lot of human connection in the movie. And I thought that was super awkward. I got the distinct impression that they had like sort of a connection where that he was kind of crushing on her, but it was too awkward and that kind of stuff. I really disliked that in the movie. Because in the book, she is one of those characters that you love to hate. She is in there with a big hammer. And essentially, when the governments all come together to try to save Earth from astrophage, they give her an unlimited budget and say, whatever you want, and you can get however you want to get it. It's the ends justify the means, period. And so her brute force and her essentially, like, the way that she handles Ryland is the way that she handles all of the problems, which is, you're going to do this because I said you're going to do it, and I will force you to do it. And the way that the book is structured with this narrative going back and forth between flashbacks and Rocky, I felt like in the movie, this this like weird, like trying to humanize her love interest thing really took away from the fact that, in my opinion, she was the foil for Rocky. So Rocky got Ryland to do the things that he was supposed to be doing on this mission by encouraging and making him brave, which is what he was learning. Like, I can actually do this. And, you know, he had like a lot of self-esteem issues and stuff like that at the beginning. He didn't believe in himself because no one was believing in him back on Earth other than this woman. And so they sent him forward, and he was struggling with how to do this. And here it is, Rocky making him brave. And then Strat like handles the situation by forcing him. And what that did is made him dig in his feet even more. It made him run away rather than Rocky, who helped with encouragement and showing him that he could actually do it. So in many ways, Eva and Rocky like both kind of handled Ryland differently. And one of them brought him higher, and the other one like kind of forced him to like dig in and not appreciate what was going on. So I really thought that their addition of trying to humanize her and make her not somebody who's totally hated was to the detriment of the connection that they had with Rocky. Like, because it was very, to me, it was a lot more obvious in the book that they were like kind of supposed to show you two different sides of the same coin in many ways. It's just the ends didn't justify the means for Rocky. He really cared, whereas Eva probably cared. She was just like, nope, I'm going to take a hammer, I'm going to smash it, you will do it, period. I will make you, right? So I thought that would be something that they wasted so much time on, like that awkward karaoke scene. Oh, I was so bored during that time. Like, I liked it. That make that stop.
Such a good song, but it's such a good song. It's become, you know, like
yes, but I like it didn't. With how much time they could have spent on the cool dynamic between Rocky and Ryland, because there were a lot of really cool scenes in the books that they really took out. And I understand it can't be word for word. I totally get that. But they had a lot of like quotes that Rocky says that they took out like entirely. And, you know, there's all those shirts around that say amaze, 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 because he said that all the time. Yeah. Or, you know, he did the thumbs down or things like that. He also had other really cool phrases that they like cut entirely, and they didn't really have him say amaze, amaze, amaze as much as he did in the book. They also, like when Ryland cries and things like that, Rocky doesn't understand humans, so he's like, your face is leaking, what do we do? And they make a lot of comments about how Rocky feels pretty cool because he's like, yes, I am a scary space monster, but you are a blob, a scary human blob, you know, like, and it was like a fun juxtaposition between the two and like kind of a competition between them. And we kind of didn't get as much of that as there was in the book. And here we have this literally 10-minute scene of her singing a very awkward karaoke. Like, why? What a waste, you know? Like, come on. We could have actually had some like really funny conversations. This, you know, I think that was like such an opportunity lost. Just let us hate her. That's what we do in the book. That's what she's supposed to be. You know, I think like that's one of the bigger changes that I have. Go ahead.
If I can address that quickly, it's an interesting point. I didn't think about that at all. As you're talking, you're convincing me that is true. Because yes, there were so many scenes. Yes, there's so many. I know this is a magical moment for us. Whitney. we're always arguing, but no. What you said about other things that could have been in the movie. Mm-hmm. As opposed to this scene, that does make sense. I think what they tried to do with her character is show a little bit more nuance to her character, maybe. And she had a lot of these moments where she was just staring out to sea, and her face, and she's such a good actress for that. She just looks sad all the time. I've seen her in an interview. She very solemn, right? So she had this weight of humanity, saving humanity. And I think, I think it was done really well, but you are right. There are better scenes that could have been in its place, especially the karaoke. But I thought she sang well, and I like the Harry Styles song. So I was happy with it. But now that you make a good point, so yes, I both agree and slightly disagree or push
Well, you know
back.
what?
Not disagree.
One of the background pieces I saw in this movie is apparently the first cut was 4 hours long, and people are going, "You cannot put this out there 4 hours long." So I bet you some of the things you're talking
Oh my
about
God.
have been filmed, and maybe
I'd love
there'll
to
be
see
an
it.
extended
that
edition or something.
that was one of the points that I have on my paper that I was going to talk about. Is I would be very interested in seeing if they release a director's cut, because
Yes,
it was
they
only
will. I know.
166 minutes, and this movie begs for more. Like, I don't understand why they didn't just give us the full length. And I think that the reason why they did it is another hot take that's a downplay of this movie. And that is, they really tried, and it's not as hard as other movies, okay? So I'm going to say Star Wars, it's not as hard as they did with Star Wars, but they did make the same mistakes. So the first mistake was they're trying to attract audiences of all ages, which is fine. I do think this movie is for all ages, but I think that they cutesified Rocky just a little bit. I think that's why you related him to Jar Jar Binks. And I think maybe another relationship between that is the Baby Yoda character, because they made him very cutesy. They're going to sell a lot of Baby Yoda toys, and I guarantee you they're already selling Rocky toys, right? So I understand that they want to make some money from the movie, and I don't think that they did it to such an extreme length of Jar Jar Binks, but I do think that it's very on par with Baby Yoda. And in the book, Rocky was like kind of a badass. Am I allowed to say that? Can I say that here?
Of course.
But listen, but they did a good job also, because to make a pile of rocks, essentially likable and funny and sellable as a, because obviously they do want to sell plush toys or whatever with Rocky. I would not be surprised if that shows up in Toy Stories. That's not easily done. So they did succeed at least, and I don't think it was cringy. I think it was still in good spirit. Yeah, it was not. It
wasn't good spirit, but I am going to say that I do think that if they had pushed just a little bit, like, they didn't have to make him scary, but I do think they could have added in a little bit more of how talented Rocky was. I mean, of all of his planet, they chose only 23, and he was the only engineer, and he was like world class, and he's above human engineers in what he can do. It's not just about his technology, which they go into the discussion in the book about how the only kinds of aliens who could have met in this particular system had to have been on the same level of technology. Because if you were at a higher level of technology, then you wouldn't have needed to come. And if you were at a lower level of technology, you wouldn't have been able to build the spaceship and arrive. So whoever they were going to meet was inevitably going to be the same technological level in many ways. So what Rocky knew that we didn't balanced out with what we knew that Rocky didn't. That's why the idea of the radiation was such a big deal in the book. And that's why all of Rocky's compatriots died, because they didn't know about radiation. But we didn't know about a lot of things that Rocky came up with for us to figure this out, which is why they had to be perfect partners in trying to figure out what was going on with the astrophage. So I do think that a little bit of that was lost, which is what I was going to say my next hot take was, which is, as much as I think there was science in this story, I do think they kind of dumbed it down to a little bit of a detriment. I think if they had added a couple more explanations in here, and I'm not talking like they didn't need to put in here like formulas, right? Just added a little bit more explanation. Like, let's talk about how he really forgot who he was, and let's emphasize that a little bit more at the beginning. Or let's make sure that we understand like why we're doing the things that we're doing in certain aspects of the story. I do think that the general population would have got it. Kind of like they included a lot of the science in The Martian, and people still got it.
Well, yeah, and I think Whitney, again, it may be that the 4-hour version that Richard brought up has a lot of those things, and unfortunately, whoever is the decision maker in charge of making as much money and selling the final product, just decided, no, this is too much science. We got to cut this out. This is PG-13 after all. So maybe, but maybe the editor's cut, director's cut rather, will be something to watch.
All right, we'll see if mine is a hot take here, but
okay.
I think the movie people made the right choice, because I think a movie shouldn't be longer than 2 to 2.5 hours, and that you should be making it to appeal to as many people as possible. I actually think books' best form for adaptation is TV, because of chapters in books and the extended. You could make this easily a 6-hour prestige TV event.
All right. So do you think this would have been better as a series?
I think so. I think that we're at a level now that things like this don't have to be movies, that there could have been great special effects in a TV series like this as well. So I think that they're forced. If you're going to make a movie, your job is to make as much money as you can, and to not have people get their butts tired in the seat, having to go to the bathroom and miss part of the movie. And they need to crystallize it, or bring it down to what are the core elements that will appeal to the most people in that seat.
I agree that I think you can pare it down. I don't think that this had to be a 6-hour situation, but I'm also going to disagree with you there, because again, I think you're underestimating the audience. Look at Lord of the Rings.
I had to leave to go to the bathroom. I hated that.
Well, I understand, but I'm just saying that look at the number of people who appreciated all the little nuances, the number of people who bought even the extended edition. I mean, in general, when you want a rabid fandom, you want to give them as much content as you can. So I thought, there were a couple of little fun Easter eggs in the movie that I'm not sure if you guys saw. Like, for example, since Ryan Gosling volunteered to be filming this alone on set for a long time, and he wasn't interacting with the camera people other than for his lines and the directors and stuff like that, he got really lonely because he wanted to be in that mind space. So he asked the set designers without a conversation to make him a friend, which is, if you remember in some of the montages, he's like dancing with a mop character. That was because they really made him that, kind of like the Castaway character Wilson, because he was alone on set for so long without interacting with anyone other than for his lines over and over. And I think that's like a really cool little Easter egg. I think some of the lines that they ad-libbed that weren't in the book were great. Like, I like that they don't necessarily take every single thing that happened in the book and exactly put it on the screen. So that way it feels more natural and more real. Like the line where he was talking about how he had a girlfriend that got taken by Mark, and Rocky goes, "I hate Mark." Yep. Apparently Mark was somebody on the set that they were making a discussion about. And I thought that was super funny and really good, really well done. However, I am going to say that I thought that they could have done the interaction with Rocky and Gosling just a little better. I also thought that the pacing could have been better, because I was a little bored in the middle of the movie, especially with the karaoke scenes or the scenes where we're flashing back. As an editor, okay, I know this is a hot take here too, but as an editor, I thought they could have done a better job placing the flashbacks. Okay, the flashbacks were real in the book, and they did a good job with most of the flashbacks, but they kind of seemed a little bit abrupt, back and forth, a little bit more random than I think they needed to be, and I think that could have all been easily fixed with a single transition. And I know that's editing random things, but I really think that would have made a difference for viewers to understand, okay, now we're going from space, now we're going back to Earth, now we're going back to space, now we're going back to Earth. I think a little bit of a transition really could have added something there. Again, just an amateur editor here. I also think that, another hot take, Ryan Gosling was not the right actor for this part. He just wasn't as goofy and as funny as the main character in the book. And I understand that he did the best he could do, and I think that's great, but he wasn't the right actor for this.
Oh.
Who would you
Well,
cast?
And I wouldn't know because I didn't read the book. I completely bought into him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was great.
I didn't. I would have put. So I've been thinking about this, and I want to hold my stand because I'm probably going to think of somebody better right after this finishes. Okay, so I'll text you if I do that. I'm sorry, but I would say, because I think Matt Damon was the right guy to play the Martian. He was smart, but he was also like kind of doofy, and he was kind of irreverent, and that made it fun to watch.
He was great.
And I thought that Ryan Gosling here he just has like such a flat affect of facial expressions that I thought it could have been done better by someone else. So if I had to pick somebody at like right now, I guess I would pick somebody like Paul Rudd, the guy who played Ant-Man. Because I would believe that he was smart, but I would also believe that he was doofy, but I would also believe that he's like this little bit of oppositional defiance going on where he doesn't take authority well. And that's part of the reason why I think, Ryland Grace was such a coward. Like he just ran away because he was being forced into things. And that's what he does, is he backs away and runs away. And they continually show that through the whole movie, which is why Eva Stratt didn't handle him well. But I will say that that is something that I would have changed. And I recognize that he bought the rights to this movie because he was a super fan and because he wanted to play this character.
Oh.
And he really did commit, and there was a lot of things that he did well, and I will give him that he did the best he could, but I'm still going to say he was the wrong actor.
So for the flashbacks, were they chapter changes, or as Gareth is saying here, were they line breaks?
So, some of them could be line breaks, but I like, you can tell a lot easier on a page that we're going to transition. And it feels less rough than I felt like the movie. Like, I mean, you could just have like literally like a 2-second transition. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I really think that would have made a big difference in the cut.
Okay. Yeah, I liked Ryan Gosling in this role. I thought he was good. I don't know, maybe somebody could have played this role a little bit better, and maybe Matt Damon was really good. But I think Paul Rudd, he's been in so many silly movies, like just outright comedies, that I would just, I think that would maybe push the movie a little bit too far into that side. Whereas I thought Ryan Gosling just struck the right balance between seriousness of the mission, and also the funny moments where he's hiding with the camcorder, trying to like get a break from Rocky, who's always listening to him. And I thought he was great overall. And I think most people, I spoke with Jonathan from Words in Time. He's in around movies quite a bit, and I remember even when this original was announced that he was in the role, he was really excited. Yeah, most people, I think, but everyone has an opinion.
I like comedy coming from a serious actor. I like drama coming from a comedy actor. I always think about Robin Williams. When he did drama, it was great. I would think Robin Williams would be horrible though in this.
Oh, probably not. Yeah. Well, I mean, and he wasn't an option. I was just trying to think of somebody who could play that. He's a little bit more doofy, but could also be very serious, and kind of Ryland Grace was somebody who needed that kind of either push like Eva Stratt provided, or he needed encouragement like Rocky provided. Like, he wasn't somebody who could, I mean, he had been just drained from all of the like career ending things that happened to him, that he just like lived in this little hole of teaching now, to the point where I just don't feel like, I don't know. I just didn't feel like Gosling was the right character was the right actor for the role. I will try to see if I can come up with somebody better, because I do agree, Gosling is a better actor than Paul Rudd, but I'm just trying to find that kind of personality, I guess, is what I was looking for.
So does the book have a degree of hurt, pain in the eyes of the character, perhaps, that really wasn't communicated in the film? Well,
so there is so overall, again, we're talking spoilers, so I'm not worried about any of that. One of the most heavy elements about the end of the book, and that made Project Hail Mary such a phenomenal read, in my opinion, was that through this whole process, you really get this feeling of growth from Ryland Grace. And it's almost like a redemption growth arc that he goes through, because for a long time in the book, he doesn't remember that he had to be forced into this. He thought that he finally came to terms with this and volunteered on his own. And so it was a big deal when he discovered that he was actually a coward and forced into this. And yet Rocky brings him out of it because they were having like some kind of disaster right at the same time, and shows him that he was actually capable of overcoming this despite his past cowardice, which was a big, like, emotional, heavy moment in the book that I just didn't feel as slamming as I could have in the movie, which is what I was really wanting. And because you felt that growth, the ending was even more powerful, because that's why he's making decisions now for himself. And he's like, nope, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to teach, and I'm not running away anymore. I'm just doing what I love. Do you see like the subtle difference between I'm running away and I'm teaching like I did on Earth, versus now I've been through this process, I faced my demons, and now I made my own decision, and I'm going to do this. And I felt like that arc was so apparent in the book, and it just was like barely there in the movie.
Yeah, Whitney, someone in the comments mentioned Ryan Reynolds as an option. How do you feel about Ryan Reynolds, the guy from Deadpool?
So I have a really hard time separating him from the Deadpool guy. You know what I'm saying? I think that was just a little more over the top than Ryland Grace should be. So I think it would be a little bit closer to what I had imagined, but I still think that Ryan Reynolds would be a little bit too much also.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree too.
Gosling was better of those two. Yeah. One thing there's comments I've been highlighting, a few of them in here. There's a person, RK, who asked a question a couple times. I just want to put it up here. If we get to it, we do. But if we don't, he was wondering about if I could direct a film, or you could direct a film of your favorite novel that has not yet been made into a film, what would you choose? So perhaps we'll save that for a little later, unless you have an immediate response, but I just didn't want to lose that one.
Yeah. No, I think we can go into that, because I also want to go into like the question that I asked you guys right before this video as well. So,
well, for me, Invincible by Lamb. There's a game, a good game made by this Polish company, but I don't think there is a movie, and I think it would be an excellent science fiction movie.
I agree. You know, I have to say I didn't like Solaris, but I loved Invincible. It was so good.
Invincible's a really good one, underrated, and I think it would make possibly for a good movie. Again, says a lot about humanity, our hubris, but also is a fantastic science fiction story with lots of great visuals. Possibly, I think that would be a good one. I'd love to see it. What about you guys? Anything?
Richard?
I'm going to pick one that, just because not just because, but I know that Whitney won't agree.
You guys, why do I always have to be
this one's for you, Whitney?
Here?
Spin by Robert Charles Wilson. I think Spin, and I know that Bart has just recently read it.
I love it.
It's a high concept beginning, and it plays out over generations, and it has huge concepts in there, and it has an emotional story starting from teenager into adulthood.
There was no emotion there.
I think there's a lot in there. In fact, to me, that would make a great prestige TV series.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. That Spin would have to be a TV series, not a movie. It's I think too much.
Yeah. Well, I would hope that they would do better in the adaptation than the book, because I mean, I could potentially really like it, but man, I gotta tell you, I just did not connect with that book at all.
Yeah, I actually I'm just about finished reading another Robert Charles Wilson called Last Year from 2016, coming up soon on the channel. And I'll have to tell you, I'm very much enjoying it.
Oh,
okay.
Good.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. It's last year. Is that like a pre-apocalyptic kind of? Is that the premise? This is the last year of.
We're set in 1876 and 77 in the American West, but there are there's a city of futurity, 2 large towers, and a time travel mirror below that connects basically almost to our time, maybe just slightly into the future. And how does that affect it? And I won't go any further. I'll talk about it in a day or two, probably.
That's a great premise. I haven't heard anyone talk about Last Year, Robert Charles Wilson.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it. I haven't heard of it.
I know, but any book that does not have an adaptation that you'd love to see? I don't think you've answered, and it's a good question from our viewer.
Yeah, I would probably pick something that's a little bit more modern. I think there are, I have to say, first of all, I'm really excited for Rendezvous with Rama. I'm really excited to see what they do with that. Okay, so that one's off the table because they're actually going to do it. I would really like to see a book that I recently think Bart has read. I think Shroud would be a really intriguing movie. I think it would be a little difficult, but I think they can do it. I think that one would be really interesting. I also think there's a book by Ray Naylor called Mountain in the Sea that I think would make for a really phenomenal, intriguing movie or series.
For that one, I think also would work very well. Yeah, Shroud. Those are great options, Whitney. Yeah. But nobody mentions the big ones like Hyperion. Are we ever going to get Hyperion adaptation?
I think it's too much. I think they should just not touch it. 0%. Don't do it.
Unadaptable.
Yeah, I agree. I would also say the same thing about Blindsight. Like, nope, just stop. You're not going to do it right. Please don't touch it.
Yeah.
It's Captain Infinity. There's some time travel I'll be talking about soon. Sprawling TV series. I haven't read the Saga comics. My son has, so I have an idea what they're about. I don't know if either of you have read those.
Yes, I own the Saga series.
Okay.
I am a little bit out of date because I know they restarted, so I haven't read the new ones, but I really liked it. It's one of the few graphic novels that so good.
Okay.
Maybe I'll have to look at it.
Yeah. So we have to talk about the quick question that I sent you guys earlier, which is, what do you think is the best adaptation ever done? Part 1. Part 2 is, then I want you to narrow it into specifically sci-fi adaptations.
Ooh.
And then we're going to do worst, but we got to start with best.
Well, but what's is it? Are you looking at it that it's faithful to the book? Does that matter? Like Blade Runner, for example.
Your definition, however you define it. What is your personal thoughts on the best adaptation done? And I understand that you're allowed to change your opinion, right? We can talk about this potentially forever. So I will let you know that you're like, just go with your gut. Like, what is your best adaptation? And then specifically go down to sci-fi.
Well, I was only thinking about sci-fi now.
Yeah, me too.
Well, you can start there if you want to. That's fine. Yeah. We don't have to be crazy specific.
I don't know if I'm able to rank them, right? But I will say there are a couple that I think are fantastic. Okay. I thought The Arrival was done really well. I like that a lot. I also think Dune movies are fantastic, and we'll see how the new one coming out wraps it up, because that's going to be the key, I think, because it's a shift in tone in Dune Messiah that takes place. We'll see if they're able to be successful, and then that could be a fantastic. The visuals in Dune, amazing. Also, I even something fun like Jurassic Park. I read the book, then I thought it was excellent. So those are three. If I have to choose one, maybe Dune, just because it's such a. But Arrival is fabulous. I thought.
Bart, you're stealing all of my answers, because I actually have Arrival as my best adaptation ever. So I agree with you on that
I'll
one.
Take Dune, you take Arrival.
I would also take Jurassic Park 2. I think that's also a really good one. A movie that has become more successful maybe than even the book was, which is really interesting. And I think Arrival, the movie, added so much to the short story that it just became, it like one-upped the story, which is not something that you see very commonly. So I must say I would highly recommend reading the short story Arrival and then watching the movie, because it was very well done.
I thought about before we let Richard talk. This is his channel, and he hasn't been saying much. We have to let Richard talk. But I will say, it just popped into my head an adaptation that I think is amazing outside of SF. It's Stephen King's Shawshank Redemption. That's an amazing adaptation of a novelette, short story. That's my favorite movie, like one of my favorite movies of all time, and a fantastic adaptation. So Shawshank Redemption and Dune.
Now that you brought that up, I made an episode about this a little while ago. The Life of Chuck is a novella by Stephen King, where I think that the movie is stronger even than the novella, and is very faithful though still to the novella. I keep singing the praise of that movie. I hadn't actually thought about that because I was talking about science fiction here. I was thinking about that, but yeah. And Darabont has done some excellent King adaptations. I guess we should get off of King though.
Well, it's okay. I mean, I think it's really interesting because his stuff does make for really fantastic adaptations. Yeah. And I think one of the reasons why is because you really take a lot of his verbosity out of the adaptation, which, don't get me wrong, I actually really like his stuff. So, but I will agree, he makes really good adaptations for the screen. Same with Michael Crichton, actually. I think he did really good. If I get to add one more, I would also say kind of Michael Crichton-esque writer that I'm trying to introduce Richard to right now, by the way, just for everyone.
Okay.
Is Daniel Suarez. I think he and his stuff would be really well done as an adaptation. Very similar to Michael Crichton's style. Kind of feels a little bit sci-fi thriller, very fast-paced, but still kind of big ideas.
Would you agree with the comment below?
I definitely agree with the below. I think that the emotional arc of that really needed to be added. And I really find that movie to be one of the most perfect.
Oh, now we're going back. Awesome. Andromeda Strain.
Yeah,
Michael from the 70s.
Yeah,
nice. I've got an 80s
agree.
one that I'm going back to as well.
Yeah.
What do you got, Richard?
They're also adding something here about, I didn't know that there was actually a movie of the Great Train Robbery by Crichton. Okay.
I didn't either. I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
So, I had the things that you had there. I added The Martian. I think they did a great adaptation of that.
Agree.
But I also, the one that I got from the 80s that I always think of, and some of the people here may know I've talked about it before, it's from a Barry Longyear novella as well, Enemy Mine, where these two people are in a space battle and they both crash land on the planet, and their only way to survive is to work together. Dennis Quaid and Louis Gossett Jr. is the alien, and it has an emotional impact. You can probably guess a little bit about the story, but it gets to the point. I don't know. Should I spoil something that's from the 80s? I'm not going to spoil it. It's a tiny movie. I'm sure you can find it lots of different places, probably 90 minutes long, but a great story. I love it. And yes, it's an emotional one. I see there's some people there talking about it, crying, and a fantastic choice.
So if I was going to watch it, should I read the short story first or watch the movie and then read the short story?
I saw the movie first and then read the novella, and it's good both ways. What I liked about the movies is completely bought Louis Gossett Jr.'s performance as the alien. And as Bart had said, then when I read the novella, I couldn't get him out of my mind, even with the changes that the novella would be from the movie. His performance was so strong that I actually think I preferred seeing it first.
Well, I gotta say, you have me sold. I'm probably gonna see if I can watch it.
Yeah, we got a few people here who've seen it as well.
I've never even heard of it, let alone seen it.
Oh, good. Barry Longyear is an author that a lot of people don't know anymore, but was a very good science fiction author. I was also going to mention some TV series.
Okay.
I have questions. The Expanse, I haven't read it, but the show certainly looks like a well done adaptation.
Yeah, I think it's good. I only watched first season though, so I don't know.
Okay.
So I've read the first book and watched the first season, but I gotta also be honest, I haven't read the second book, and I didn't go on because I wanted to read the book. So I don't know.
I read the first 3 books, and they were good, but somehow it was just, I don't know. I lost interest, but it's fun. It's a fun story, and I thought the adaptation was well done for kind of.
I watched all 6 seasons and I really enjoyed it as a show. That's for sure. I will be reading those books someday. The other one is I haven't seen the show or read the book, but I have a question about The Peripheral, which is by William Gibson. Made by HBO.
It's not the best adaptation ever, but I will say I loved the adaptation more than the book. For sure. Easy. But for some reason, I don't get along very well with William Gibson. I'm going to give him another chance, actually. Yeah. But I don't know.
Neuromancer is coming out.
Yeah. Neuromancer is going to be on Apple TV Plus. I'll be interested to see how they do. The one I did see and the one I did read a number of years ago when it actually was still not even published, but was only self-published, I guess, as a digital book named Wool, is Silo, and I think that they're doing a great job of that adaptation.
Again, another adaptation that I think is better than the book. Although there's a good reason for that. By the way, Wool was initially published as like these little mini novellas that he didn't really weave together very well, and the subsequent books he made them as actual books, but so the writing and everything gets better. But when you read the original version of that Wool, it feels very disjointed and janky. And the series, man, they did such a great job.
I don't think this was a novel.
It wasn't, but it is the best TV show of all time. Hands down.
My family all enjoyed that show very much. And we're talking, so everybody's clear, the 2000 series.
Yes,
right? Not
absolutely.
the 1977 series.
No. Yeah.
Or 78.
Yeah.
And by the way, a couple of days ago, this is getting off the science fiction, going back to non-SF stuff. Stephen King, I watched with my daughter and my wife, we watched Misery. And that was such a good movie and a great book. I love the book because it's got that meta element, book within a book again. But also the movie and Kathy Bates's performance, which I watched when the movie came out. Just fantastic. Her, incredible. It's a great movie adaptation, I think, as well.
Well, I do also have to say, because we haven't talked about it yet, for science fiction adaptations, I find I have a lot to say about Blade Runner and Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. And I actually, I've been meaning to make this book versus the movie episode on this, but I find myself bouncing back and forth between, do I really like the book or the movie better? And I go back and forth to the point where I've stalled on making that video. I even have another hot take specifically on that one, which is the sequel, also by Ryan Gosling, by the way, which was Blade Runner 2049, I believe.
It was good.
Blew both of them out of the water. It's one of my top 5 best movies of all time. Was so good.
Villeneuve is such a gift to us, isn't he?
Yep. Great movie.
Movie after movie. I guess somebody's still waiting for a certain novel to come out by George R.R. Martin.
Oh, he's writing it supposedly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There's so many things that you could talk about. I don't know.
Well, that book specifically is so different from the adaptation, and the fact that the adaptation is successful and became one of the defining science fiction movies of its time speaks to the core of the story, I guess, that you could get rid of some of the aspects like the religion, so many things that are omitted, and it's still an amazing movie.
Yeah, the Murderbot is definitely an incredible adaptation for sure.
A lot of fun. That's where you're talking about internal thoughts of people. The voiceover worked really well on this show. And it's hilarious the way Skarsgård does those.
Well, and I also think what's interesting is when you read it from his perspective, you're kind of getting one perspective, and then when you watch it on TV, you're understanding that he's like an unreliable narrator, which I really didn't get as much from the books as I got from the TV show, which I thought was awesome, and it really added something to the show. And I also have to agree with Lord Huntress also. Foundation, which initially I was like, I didn't really love and I was kind of disappointed in, I have really come around to liking, because I think that Foundation, as it's originally written, is almost unadaptable. But the changes that they made to it made it something that I want to watch. So in that way, I think it was somewhat successful.
I think Bart and I would disagree.
Yeah.
What did you say, Bart?
Richard said that we disagree with you a little bit, because we talked about it just a bit, I think, before you came on.
Oh no, I missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I watched season 1, and there were aspects of it that I really enjoyed, but also it, I don't know, it felt to connect with me on any emotional level, and it felt to be kind of all over the place. So I don't know. But
season 2 though, that's why
I did not watch season 2. No, should I?
I watched season 2 and half of season 3.
Okay.
And I'd say half of season 3 because I was so looking forward to the mule, and I just didn't connect with it. And the people who love Isaac Asimov's Foundation, I know that there's a problem there, because they only used sort of scaffolding of his books to create another story, and emperors who had genetic cloning and things like that happening. Those things aren't in the book, but in its own way, it was interesting. But I just lost it in season 3. I lost the thread, and I have no desire to go back.
One of the things that made it for me, well, I'm going to say the specific thing that made it for me, because I didn't like that they had like magical powers or what, like, I don't know, they were doing some weird stuff with it, but I did like the idea of the emperor making him a character, and then having this idea of the clones constantly ruling. That was such an incredible idea that really carried season 2 for me. That was where I was looking forward to almost all of the emotions of him and his growth and what was happening with him and his clones. That was where the TV show was for me.
And it was a great ending to the season 2 in season 2.
Well, and there's that is not covered at all in the books. Like, that's not really a character mentioned really a whole lot. So but I loved the original Foundation series. So
I've never seen the Boy and His Dog adaptation.
I haven't even
either you have. That's a Harlan Ellison story, if I'm correct.
It's so hard to get a hold of too.
Yeah.
I was going to say there is interesting Soylent Green, but I haven't read the book Make Room yet, so I can't really talk about whether I think it's a good adaptation or not. So
I think that Planet of the Apes novel is far superior to the movie, which I still think is a very classic movie. So of those two, I would say read the novel versus the movie.
I remember we talked about this some time ago. You also had that interesting book with an interesting cover with the 3D glasses, right?
I did. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I watched the movie. If I see the book, I'll definitely buy it. I love the movie. I remember watching it when I was a kid, and my jaw dropped at the end of that movie. I was not expecting that scene at the beach. Amazing.
That scene is not in the book in that way. And so that's a movie element. One of the things that I feel like I'm ready to lecture. I'm doing this. I'm excited about this one. I have The Making of the Planet of the Apes, a really beautiful coffee table book about it. Rinsler is the person who wrote it. Excellent work there. He has included some of the first script that was written by Rod Serling, who was the guy who created the Twilight Zone in the early 60s. And so that ending is so Twilight Zone-like. That I always think about how Rod Serling contributed to the very first script of it. They couldn't shoot his script, and so they had to go another route because he was a little bit more faithful to the book, where the ape culture was more contemporary, set in our kind of contemporary, than being more agrarian and small village.
Interesting.
That's one of the more classic ones that I really haven't read because I saw the movie, so I thought it really wasn't much different. So I didn't make it a priority to watch.
I think, if I may, I think an interesting adaptation, kind of an adaptation. Now we need to talk about, when we talk about science fiction, is 2001: A Space Odyssey.
I was going to bring that up. Yes,
we cannot mention it.
But that's different because it was written for the screen at the same time. Like that is a very unique. I don't know if there's another situation where the book and the film are being written at the same time and changed at the same time. I just have an awesome book called The Lost Worlds of 2001, where Clark has a diary of how working with Kubrick and has those altered scenes in that book. So it's like an outtake scenes, including even a different ending. If you love 2001, that's a really good book to look up.
Okay.
I have to say though, my hot take is I hope that movie burns. I watched it in college, and oh my gosh, like that 10-minute scene of them just floating through space for no reason, total silence. I hated it. The book was so much better because I didn't have to suffer through that. and I do also have to add, I was really surprised to say 2010, the sequel that Arthur C. Clarke wrote as a follow-up without Kubrick was, in my opinion, better than the original book. Now, I understand it's very important for culture and whatnot, but I did not enjoy it.
Well, I think you have to look at it also as a piece of art, not just a movie, not just whether you're enjoying it, but how do you feel? So if it made you feel, even if it's anger, that last scene, I think that's okay, because it really is. The artistic value of 2001, the movie Space Odyssey, I think is incredible, but not always enjoyable. I could see that. I wouldn't make my kids suffer through it.
It is difficult for the modern viewer who is not used to some of the slowness of movies. Even things like The Godfather, if you go back to it, there's some really slow moments in there too.
Well, Solaris, Tarkovsky's Solaris, those slow moments. A modern viewer with the short attention span, there's no way you can enjoy that. But it is beautiful in many ways.
Well, therethere's at least two more big adaptations that we got to talk about.
Can I just talk about this comment before, and then we'll move to yours?
Absolutely.
Just because they had mentioned Harlan Ellison wrote an episode of the original Star Trek series called City on the Edge of Forever, where he goes back in time to the 1930s. And so the grandfather paradox of someone dying in there, I'm not sure exactly why it's ignorant of it, because was she the person who dies in that episode, was she the grandparent of somebody famous? I don't know about that, but it's a pretty famous Star Trek episode. So I just thought I'd mention that. Oh, and somebody else had said The Lord of the Rings with those painful, slow, lingering shots. So see, there we go. And how about the really slow, multiple endings that designed to make you cry?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that necessarily.
Yeah. My kids love Lord of the Rings. I'm with it.
Same.
Yeah.
I just thought it was too long.
Yeah. Anyways, Whitney, sorry to interrupt you. You got a couple more.
Yeah, that's okay. I forgot.
Oh, no.
I'm so sorry.
I am sorry. I shouldn't have done that to you.
I should have wrote it down.
Live TV.
This is totally unscripted. Oops.
Yeah,
I can throw one out just to keep it going, but it's not science fiction. But The Shining, it's one that's often talked about as far as whether the book is better or the movie, and they're quite different too in tone and how they approach the main characters. Jack Nicholson's character kind of spinning into his madness, but both are really good, I thought.
So, Roadside Picnic and Stalker.
Oh,
I know that's an older one, and I honestly have to say, I'm only bringing it up because I loved Roadside Picnic so much that I went out and specifically sought the movie Stalker, which was painful in its incredible slowness. They're trying so hard to get you to figure it out and think for yourself on that movie that that's one that I don't think translates well to modern audiences, but I'm sure it was a big deal at the time.
Yeah, the director's Tarkovsky, just like Solaris, so it's got that similar artistic, very, very slow shots, camera moving in very slowly, random horses just thrown in.
And then they just like stare at them and like zoom out real slow for like a long time, and you're like,
those
I
Russian
have other things.
filmmakers.
Yeah.
Oh.
Did you guys read Roadside Picnic?
Oh yes,
I have not.
Richard!
You gotta read it.
I still have to get into Strugatsky's. I have some. Definitely have some.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's only so many books I can read in a year.
Listen, we have homework for you.
Yeah, I know. Jeff has joined us. I think he's saying the book is even better. I'm guessing that's what you two are saying as well. Is that right?
I think the book is a little bit better, but I'm very happy with the Project Hail Mary's adaptation. So yes,
I think the book is a lot better. A lot.
All right. Good. And Gareth loved the book and hated Stalker.
Yeah.
And the time grandfather paradox was that the Enterprise disappears, but Kirk's landing party doesn't. Oh, okay. We'll leave that for another episode to discuss those sort of things. Maybe Captain Finity, you want to come on with me sometime and we can talk about some of those time travel stories.
Yeah, you could even make an entire episode or like a video on all of the different minor sci-fi works that were done that were then put into Star Trek episodes, because there's so many
short stories.
I don't even know all of them, but it's funny because I've read a bunch of the big sci-fi like short stories. I'm like, oh, I saw this episode. So
one famous adaptation I talked about recently is Arena by Frederick Brown. That's the Gorn episode, but it was very loosely adapted. I actually like the short story way better than the Gorn episode, although Kirk fighting an alien is always fun. I'm not sure why they always had to use fists, but they did.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking of the Ursula Le Guin short story, Those Who Walk Away from Omelas or something like that.
That's a tough one.
That one was really interesting, and I definitely sought out the Star Trek episode because I read it first and then I saw it. But yes, we have mentioned how awesome Ray Porter is. So good.
And
that makes me want to, when I do want to reread Project Hail Mary, maybe I'll just re-listen or listen.
Yeah, I might too.
Yeah. It's a fantastic audiobook. If you're going to do an audiobook, it's award-winning, if that makes any difference. It's really good.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna have to set that up, Captain Infinity.
It's a more recent one, and I did forget the one that I really wanted to talk about. Sorry, but the adaptation of the book All You Need Is Kill is Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah,
that's a more recent one, and that does remind me of the one I want to talk about, which is Minority Reports. We have to talk about Philip K. Dick. OMG, how did we not talk about that?
Well, we talked about androids, Blade Runner, but yeah, that's
okay. Fair.
What's the one where they also rotoscope animated real people? A Scanner Darkly, is that what it was?
Oh yes, that's a great one. That's a great adaptation. Oh, it's excellent. It's so good. Great acting, really well done artistically. But I haven't read Scanner Darkly. So I want to.
I haven't read it either. What's really interesting is I think Philip K. Dick's works make for better adaptations. Hot take. Kind of like Stephen King makes for better adaptations. I mean, I guess it depends on how what your favorite is, but I'm just saying.
I think there's some bad ones too.
Yeah, it could go either way.
It could, I guess.
It could go either way.
Yeah.
But Yeah, Scanner Darkly was great.
There's
For
some
example, a book like Ubik, which is maybe arguably his best book, some might say.
I would agree. I would agree.
I don't
So
think that's
far,
been adopted, right? It hasn't even
I
been
don't think
tried.
it
That's a
can
tough
be.
one.
I don't think it could be. I think
Yeah.
it's gonna. I think that one would be really hard to adapt.
Yeah, it's a little, it gets a little crazy.
There's a lot of good adaptations, excuse me, of Matheson's. I haven't seen The Shrinking Man from the 1950s. Richard Matheson is probably more known to be one of the writers of The Twilight Zone, some of his short stories.
Or I Am Legend.
I Am Legend is a big one of his.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, What Dreams May Come.
Ooh, that one was
Duel.
an interesting book. Yeah.
Yeah, and Duel, the movie where there's a Mustang and a big truck. That's Stephen King's very first film, and this truck is trying to kill a guy in the Mustang down the desert highway.
Sounds very Alfred Hitchcock, The Bird.
It is a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff thinks that PKD's fared better than Stephen King on this.
Has there been an adaptation? I don't think there has, but I could be wrong. I don't watch maybe as many movies of Childhood's End, Arthur C. Clarke's, because that's another one that's a classic of the genre.
There is a TV series of Childhood End.
Okay,
I've heard that too. I have not seen it.
I haven't seen it.
It's one of my core first novels that I love.
Yeah,
and I'm fearful to watch an adaptation of that. I'd rather watch an adaptation of that where it was set in the 1950s, just like the novel was, than something that's up to date here.
Yeah. So what about bad adaptations? Oh, we haven't really gotten there yet.
We talked about Foundation already.
Oh.
Oh.
I'm kidding. It wasn't that bad. I don't know what's.
Well, so I'm gonna I definitely have already mentioned it really quickly, but I really think the movie Ender's Game was a terrible adaptation of the book. That's like one of the big ones in my opinion.
Yeah, dumbing down the book for sure.
Yep.
I didn't think in this area yet. I'm gonna still think about it because I'm sure there's a lot of books where I go, "Oh, this is a great novel," and then I'm really disappointed or crushed by the movie, but it doesn't come to mind yet.
I think that a lot of people didn't like Contact.
Oh, I liked Contact.
Okay.
I thought it was okay.
Yeah, it was good. I liked it a lot. The book is great, but the movie was good. A little different, more about religion, I guess. Matthew McConaughey's role is a little bit more prominent, but I thought overall it was great. Some exciting moments in it too. I liked it. I don't know if you've watched the series 11/22/63. Speaking of Stephen King,
yes.
Was it good?
Well, no, not the series. I love the book. I love
the book too. But I know there's a series. I've watched one episode and it didn't grab me at all. Have you guys watched it or no?
I have. That's my favorite Stephen King book, and so I watched the series as well. It's not as powerful as the book.
Yeah.
I think that. Yeah, I think that it's mediocre. Is how I would say it. So it's not bad, but it's mediocre.
Well, I kind of agree also with book songs and other magic.
Yeah, his name is Gareth. Yeah.
Oh, hey Gareth. I'm sorry. I don't know you, but hi. I'm so glad you're here. I kind of agree with Will Smith's movies were entertaining and they could stand alone and they might bring people to the source material, but as far as accuracy of the spirit of the source material, his version of I Am Legend is very different than the book, and his version of I, Robot very different than the book. So those might be on people's worst adaptations.
See, I could probably name 3 or 4 King adaptations that are bad. There was one that was The Gunslinger or Dark Tower.
Yeah,
Idris Elba. Oh, that was pretty
cool. The books are so great. I love Dark Tower. The series. And anyway, we don't have to go there. We can look for other things that are just as bad. Gareth likes your stuff. So hello.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
He has a channel. You can definitely check him out. He's also a great musician. He's from the UK.
Oh, Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if I recognize him and I just don't recognize the title of the.
Yeah.
But
How
yeah,
about people in the comments? Any ones that you say are just really horrible adaptations that are out there?
oh, World War Z.
Oh,
The
I haven't seen
book.
it.
I've read the book and I've seen the movie. They're not the same.
Was that with
They're not
was
even
that with
close.
Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
Was that with Tom Cruise?
No, it was with Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Zombies that could run like crazy and were like ants and building towers on themselves and stuff.
Well, and I'm like, what? This isn't even close to the book. What is happening here? I thought the book was very erudite and very like really well pieced together and really interesting. And I mean, it was literally about how humanity and our hubris allowed zombies to take over the world. And I did not get that from the story at all. I don't know. It was terrible.
It was a tough one to adapt because it's basically little journal entries of different people or even a newspaper or letters or things like that, gathered material. So
I don't know. I think you could have still pieced it together in the same way. If you've ever seen the the movie, I should say, District 9, it's not based off of a work, like a book that I know of. But it was done like old documentary style.
Yes.
That book or that movie is also one of my top 5 of all time.
Another bad adaptation is, speaking of Solaris, we talked about the old Solaris movie, but there's also the Solaris with the 2004 Solaris with the Clooney, which is a failed attempt.
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna have to get to know Gareth. Excuse me.
I mean, sounds like we got some good taste. We got a lot to talk about. I don't know.
I don't know about you, but I kind of try to purge myself of bad stuff and try to find more good stuff. There was a time I used to try to watch all the bad science fiction movies in the 80s or whatever, but there's too much good stuff out here now that I don't need to waste my time with that.
One that I was heartbroken over recently was Octavia Butler's Kindred. They did a series on it and they ended up canceling it because it did so poorly.
So they didn't finish the story. That's always frustrating.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it wasn't. It was also because it needed to be canceled. It was bad. And they tried to do one of those things where they tried to make it their own. So they changed too many things and it was bad. Sad to say.
A book I love is Earth Abides by George R. Stewart. I know that there was a TV series. I didn't see it. I don't even know if they're continuing it. But that, honestly, I think really could be a very good movie if somebody, the right person, grabbed it and you did it.
I always get that book confused with The Man Who Fell to Earth, which they also did a TV series. I know, but I get it confused. I don't know what's wrong with me. But yes, they did do a recent TV series, and I haven't seen it, so I haven't read it either. Need to work on that too.
Which brings us to the author Walter Tevis of The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Yes.
Why am I bringing him up? Well, we're just about to do another buddy read. Sam, Not So Wise, is going to join us, as well as Dale, who's in the comments sometimes. We're going to be reading his book, Mockingbird.
Which you've already read.
I have, but I am very anxious to read it again with you, and I won't spoil things for you. I'm very anxious for you to read it. I think we're going to enjoy it. I'm not saying it's a 5 out of 5 book, but I won't. But it's certainly not a failing book either.
No, it'll be interesting because I think it'll be interesting for conversation. So
yes, yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
The Day of the Triffids is coming up in here. That could be done again. There's many versions of it. There's an old movie from the early 60s and a couple different television versions of them. And he looked at The Man Who Fell from Earth a few months ago on his channel. A classic, basically a classic. If people don't know Walter Tevis, I'm sure you know The Queen's Gambit or The Color of Money. He was a very famous novelist, basically from the 60s, 70s, and 80s before he passed away from cancer at a young age, unfortunately. And he definitely had a very interesting, sparse, but descriptive style. Well, we'll talk about that in the future because I think we'll be doing another one of these kind of episodes. Boy, I'm doing a lot of this. Sorry. It feels like I'm rude. We're going to do another one of these episodes when we follow up our debrief on Mockingbird. So if you're interested in that one, just stay tuned. We'll have it on our channels too.
You know what I thought about of the topic slightly, but still on adaptations. We've all read quite a few. I know Whitney's been finishing some of them. The culture novels, Ian M. Banks, could those be made into a series or a movie? Are they adaptable, or is it too out there? What do you guys think?
I think that's kind of an interesting question because I think some of the magic of those books are the way that Banks writes. The way that his personality comes through with his story. I think it would be lost in the adaptation, and I feel like some of the magic of his world would be gone. So, in my opinion, I would prefer that they don't do them.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's once again where I talked about how sequels can really take the magic away from the very first one sometimes too. Interesting.
Yeah.
It looks like Gareth is going to want to invite us sometime to do a show with him. He's enjoying this.
Let's do it. Come on.
We'll have lots to talk about with Gareth.
Yeah.
And this could be true. Not enough recognition for culture. You know, it's well known within some of our science fiction circles here, but not so much out there. Same with Alistair Randall. Like some of these Peter F. Hamilton, some of these space opera guys from UK, I don't think that they're as well known out there, at least in the North American audience.
I think a lot of the UK authors are kind of not as well known, as they should be.
Yeah, that's interesting because some of them, I know Adam Roberts is a UK author who's sort of puts out a book a year since about the year 2000. He, I don't know if he has a proper publishing right or publishing company in the United States. And so lots of great books over in the UK, and I love to read some of his books, but I don't think you see them in the US unless they're brought over.
There's only been one or two of his books, and they're always like the more random. Like there was a book that he wrote that I actually discovered him by called The This.
I've read it.
Yes.
I liked it a lot.
I liked it too, especially because it asked me the question, would I do the same at the end or not? And I thought it was a very thought-provoking book, but it's not something that I've heard a whole lot of people talk about. So it was one that I found in just a random bookstore in Houston. So.
Yeah.
Talking about authors from across the pond, from this side of the pond speaking, Christopher Priest and Prestige. That's a great book to a movie adaptation. I love the book and I enjoyed the movie also.
Yeah.
Right?
I can't believe we haven't talked about that one.
It just came to me when you talked about British authors. That was great. I wonder if Inverted World could be adapted. I don't know. I don't think it has been.
That'd be a tough angle to do because you have to really have that reveal at the end.
I still think that if you did it right with the right team, that could be pretty good.
Yeah. You know, that's a great one, Bart. The Prestige,
right?
That's right up there in terms of my top. And that adaptation is different.
But it's fun.
But it's really good too. Yeah.
Somebody else is saying Forever War would be a great movie. I think that one would be really interesting to adapt because I think there's just so much in there that might be considered boring for a lot of modern audiences.
Yeah. I think, that's an interesting one. It'd have to have the right person working on it. Sometimes I think of science fiction novels that are older would benefit from being a retro kind of future look. I kind of feel almost like a 70s kind of science fiction future would suit that one better than trying to make it today.
Yeah.
Just I think of the last Fantastic Four movie was sort of in a retro 1960s kind of style. And I think that suited that comic book story way better than if the more modern versions of them.
I agree.
Oh, what else do we have here? I really like how humanity becomes alien toward the end of the Forever War. I think he's talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot of controversial topics though about like gayness and religion and things that I feel like would not go over well.
I think they'd have to perhaps leave some things out or change it.
Yeah, some things didn't age very well, but overall, it's a great book, and it's still said. I think at its core, it's an anti-war message. I mean, he was someone who actually saw the atrocities up close, wasn't he? In Vietnam,
yes, yeah,
Joe Haldeman, right? So I think concentrating on that aspect alone would be, and maybe just omitting some of the things that are at this point in our society just no longer in any way shocking or even interesting to discuss, would make for a good movie. Some of my favorite science fiction stories, like we mentioned Hyperion, but also Fire Up on the Deep, I don't think that's one that would be easily adapted.
I don't think so too. I don't think you could do the times in a convincing way that people would understand. And I'm actually fine with that, because I think a lot of the I think there's just some ideas that can't be adapted. But
I think Villeneuve could do it.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
I can try.
I do also think that some of the books that make for really interesting, like sci-fi thrillers, make for really good adaptions, just to be fun. Somebody brought up Dragon's Egg, and I think if you, I mean, it wouldn't be 100% accurate, but I think if you could focus more on the thriller aspect of that, that could be a very interesting adaptation.
That author is Forward, is that right?
Yeah, Robert Forward.
Yeah, it's a hard SF novel, if I remember.
It is, and they would have to take a lot of the explanation and the science and dumb it down or make it easier to understand. So it could be difficult.
Well, this is Clark again, I think.
Here's one also. I know you put out a video which was really good about Butler, with some interesting background also. And because you've read Dawn recently, Richard,
which I'm so excited about. Thank you so much.
Great video, great book. We've all, I think, enjoyed the book quite a bit, found a lot of things interesting in it. But that's another one that would be very problematic, I think, with some of the themes to adapt. Like, how do you even talk about it?
I mean, I'm not even sure how you could do that one without some nudity. I mean,
I feel like it's not going to be well received. I think in general, I don't think any of Butler's stuff is, outside of Kindred, maybe would be acceptable for most audiences. I think it's something that you really have to read to experience to understand what she was getting at, to be honest. I guess there would be an exception. Parable of the Sower and Parable of Talents, which would still be pretty harrowing, could potentially be adapted, but only with the right people. I will also say, I'm going to disagree with Fountains of Paradise. I found that book incredibly boring. There was not a whole lot of story in there. It's like, here's a space elevator, moving on. So like, I don't think that one would be as good, but I do think City in the Stars would be a really good adaptation. So,
yeah. And that wouldn't be that hard to film, I don't think.
Yeah, I think it would be intriguing. So,
yeah. Well, we're coming up on 2 hours here, and I think that at least Whitney has a time limit here too.
Yes, I do.
So maybe we should wrap it up here. Any last thoughts that you want to share, and I can close it out then.
Well, Project Hail Mary was great. Let's get back to Project Hail Mary, like in the final word. Sure. It was a fun time. Such a good, wholesome movie. If anyone hasn't seen it or read the book, do either. Whatever. Enjoy it. It's fun.
I think it was good. I think it was fine. I'm curious to find out if it's going to hold up as well as The Martian does, because of the cutesy elements, because of some of the changes. I found that I think that if they had made some minor tweaks, it really could have been something great. And instead, I feel like it's just good.
I'm with Bart with that this is one for all ages, at least all ages that can handle, above a normal Pixar movie or something like that, or looking for something a little bit more challenging. I think definitely preteens and teens could enjoy this in the theater. And it's always great to have something that has a positive message and relationship to bring forward. And that arc that you were talking about, Whitney, the movie does hit it, but it doesn't hit it as strong as it sounds like in the book. But that's a great arc to also have out there to enjoy.
Yeah.
So we'll be back again with Mockingbird by Walter Tevis in a few weeks.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you guys for joining me again on a debrief of the movie. Thank you for the suggestion, Whitney. That was a great one. I kind of like these impromptu ones that we do here sometimes.
Well, I think it's fun if we have something to say and, some questions to talk about. And as always, Bart, I love that our conversations are always like headbutting, because it makes me think a lot more hard about what I'm doing and why I think that. And I really appreciate having people that can discuss ideas rather than just argue about them. So I really appreciate you. Just in case nobody knows that we're actually friends, and I love you to death, Bart. Please know that.
Right back at you. I really, well, both of you. We've all, well, wait a minute. You guys haven't met in person, have you?
Not yet. No.
Yeah.
You have to. It's on the to-do list.
Yeah.
We have to both of met Bart.
Yeah. We just all have to go crash Bart's house. Let's go.
Yeah, it's kind of like in the middle, right?
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, yes, definitely.
Meet up in Colorado. This is awesome. Okay, so we'll work on that and shoot a video maybe together at that point. It's possible. This could happen easily.
Well, and I do think we should consider adding our audiobook listen of Project Hail Mary at some point this year, because I think everybody would enjoy it. I would like to do it again. It might be fun. It might be fun to add to our list. So
looks like we have someone who will join us too.
Oh yeah, come on, let's do it.
You sold an audiobook.
Yeah.
And thank you to all the people who joined us and who are going to be watching this later on as well. Appreciate that you enjoy our conversation and being part of the conversation too. Really cool. So thanks again, and take care. We'll see you again sometime. Bye. And